The billionaire cried at his daughter's grave, while Samuel, a very poor boy, appeared. And everything was changed immediately he showed up. The sun was hot that morning, burning the dusty road of a small village. A skinny boy named Samuel sat by a broken wooden fence, holding a small basket of mangoes. His clothes were old, his slippers had holes, but his smile could light up the sky. Samuel wasn't like other children. While others went to school, he sold mangoes to buy food for his sick mother. He dreamed of being rich one day, not for gold or cars, but to make his mother smile again. That morning, something strange happened. From the other side of the road, he saw a line of shiny black cars driving slowly toward the old cemetery. People in suits followed behind, crying softly. Samuel's heart beat fast. "Who are they?" he whispered. He ran closer, hiding behind a tree near the graveyard fence. There, under a white tent, stood a tall man in dark glasses. Even from far away, Samuel could see tears rolling down his face. Beside him was a woman crying so hard she could barely stand. A golden casket lay before them. The rich man's voice broke the silence. "Why, my sweet daughter? Why did you leave us?" His cry was deep and full of pain. Samuel's chest ached. He had never seen a grown man cry like that. Something inside him felt heavy, like his heart wanted to help, but didn't know how. Just then, a gentle wind blew through the trees. Samuel heard a soft whisper. It wasn't loud, but it felt real. The voice said, "Go, my child." He looked around, scared. Who said that? No one was there. Only the sound of the wind and people crying. But wait, before we go deeper into Samuel's strange adventure, make sure you subscribe to Folktale Worldwide, so you never miss a story full of wonder and miracles. The wind grew stronger. Samuel felt something warm on his chest, like invisible hands were pushing him forward. He dropped his basket of mangoes and took a small step toward the crowd. People turned to stare at him. The poor boy in torn clothes walking toward a golden casket. Samuel's heart pounded as he stepped closer to the crowd. Everyone looked at him with surprise. The guards at the gate frowned. "Hey, boy, go away," one shouted. But Samuel didn't move. Something deep inside told him to stay. He looked at the casket again. It was covered in white flowers, with a photo of a smiling girl beside it. Her name was Bella Johnson. She looked about his age, 12, maybe 13. Her smile was so bright that Samuel almost expected her to jump out of the photo and wave. But she didn't. She was gone. The tall man in dark glasses, the billionaire, was still crying. His voice cracked as he said, "You were my only child. Bella, I would give all my money, all my houses, everything, just to hold you again." His wife, Mrs. Johnson, knelt beside him, her hands shaking. "God, please," she whispered. "Why did you take her?" Samuel's eyes filled with tears. He thought about his mother lying sick at home. He thought about how unfair life was, how some people had everything but could not keep what they loved. He took another small step forward. The guards tried to stop him again, but Mr. Johnson raised his hand. "Let him come," he said, his voice tired and broken. Samuel stood beside the casket now. The air was cold, and everything was quiet. Even the birds stopped singing. He looked at the photo again and whispered, "I'm so sorry." Then, a strange feeling came over him again, the same warm voice from before. It spoke softly, but this time it was clearer. "Lay your hand on the casket, Samuel." Samuel's eyes widened. His hands trembled. "But I'm just a poor boy," he whispered. "I can't do anything." The voice came again, calm and strong. "If you believe, I will do the rest." Samuel closed his eyes. He could feel everyone staring at him. The rich man, his wife, the guards, even the priest. They all watched as the poor boy lifted his small hand slowly toward the casket. The moment his fingers touched the golden lid, the wind stopped. The air froze. And then, something began to happen. Everyone at the graveyard went silent. Even the trees stood still, as if they were waiting for something to happen. Samuel's hand rested gently on the casket, his fingers shaking. He could hear his own heartbeat thumping in his ears. The billionaire, Mr. Johnson, took a step forward, his eyes red from crying. What is this boy doing?" Someone whispered. Samuel didn't know either. He just knew something, or someone, had told him to do it. His heart felt warm, his body light. Then the soft voice returned, flowing through the wind like a song. Don't be afraid, Samuel. Speak. Samuel looked up at the sky. His lips trembled. What should I say? He asked softly. The voice came again, calm and gentle. Say what is in your heart. Samuel took a deep breath. The air around him felt different now, quiet but full of power. The flowers near the grave swayed even though the wind had stopped. Sir, Samuel said, looking at the billionaire, please don't cry anymore. I think God wants to help you. Some people gasped. A woman muttered, this child is crazy. Another man whispered, take him away. But Mr. Johnson didn't move. His face was pale, but his eyes stayed on Samuel. What are you talking about, boy? He asked. Samuel placed his other hand on the casket and closed his eyes. If it's true that you called me, he whispered, then let this innocent daughter awake now. The crowd froze. You could hear the sound of a single leaf falling to the ground. Suddenly, the wind began to blow again, but this time it wasn't soft. It roared through the graveyard, shaking the white tent and lifting the flowers from the ground. The people screamed and ran back. Samuel's hair blew wildly, but he didn't move. His eyes were still closed, his small hands glowing faintly with a warm light. Then, the golden casket began to move, slowly, quietly. Hey! Sound came from inside, a soft cough, like someone waking from sleep. Samuel's eyes opened wide. It's happening, he whispered. The rich man dropped to his knees. Bella, he cried out. Is that you? The crowd gasped as the golden casket began to shake. The priest dropped his book. A few people fainted on the spot. Samuel stood frozen, his eyes wide. Inside the casket came another sound, a soft moan, weak but real. The billionaire, Mr. Johnson, rushed forward. Open it. Open the casket, he shouted with trembling hands. Two men quickly lifted the lid. The moment it opened, the sweet scent of flowers filled the air. Everyone held their breath. There she was, Bella Johnson, the billionaire's daughter, her face pale, her lips still, her hair resting neatly on her shoulders. For a second, nothing happened. Then, her fingers moved. Look, someone shouted. Her hand. It moved. Mrs. Johnson screamed and fell to her knees. Mr. Johnson stared in disbelief. His mouth open. Bella, he whispered, tears rolling down his cheeks. The girl slowly opened her eyes. They fluttered like a bird's wings. She looked confused, then whispered weakly, Daddy. The crowd exploded with shouts, laughter, and cries. Some people clapped, others fell to the ground praying. Cameras flashed. A miracle had just happened before their eyes. Samuel stepped back, shaking. I didn't do it, he said softly. It wasn't me. Mr. Johnson ran to his daughter and hugged her tight, crying loudly. You're alive, my Bella. You're alive. Mrs. Johnson joined them, her tears falling on Bella's face. Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you. Everyone turned to Samuel. The poor boy in torn clothes stood quietly, his hands glowing no more, only covered in dust. The priest walked up to him, still shocked. My son, he said gently, what did you do? Samuel looked at the sky and smiled. I just believed, he said. Mr. Johnson stood up, holding Bella's hand. He walked towards Samuel and knelt before him. Son, I don't know who you are, he said, his voice shaking, but you have changed my life forever. He pulled Samuel into a hug, right there beside the grave that now held no death, only life, love, and wonder. The people cheered again. Birds sang from the trees. The poor boy who had sold mangoes by the road had just touched heaven itself. The graveyard was no longer a place of sorrow. It had turned into a place of joy and shouting. People ran toward Bella, laughing, crying, hugging each other. Cameras flashed like tiny stars. Bella sat up, still weak but smiling. Daddy, she said softly, why are you crying? I was sleeping. Did I make you sad? Mr. Johnson laughed and cried at the same time. You were not sleeping, my child. You were gone. But now you're back. Mrs. Johnson hugged them both, her makeup running down her cheeks. Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you. The priest fell to his knees. "This is a miracle from heaven," he shouted. Everyone began to clap and praise. Even the guards who once pushed Samuel away were now cheering and lifting him up in their arms. Samuel didn't know what to say. He was smiling, but tears rolled down his face. He felt light, as if the wind itself was holding him. A little boy from the crowd pointed at him and said, "That's the boy who brought her back." Mr. Johnson turned to Samuel, still holding his daughter's hand. "Young man," he said, his voice full of emotion, "I don't know who sent you here, but you are no ordinary boy." Samuel shook his head shyly. "Sir, I'm just Samuel. I was only selling mangoes." The people laughed through their tears. One woman said, "Even the mango boy can be a miracle worker." Mr. Johnson smiled, wiped his eyes, and said, "No, my son. You are more than that. You are a blessing." Bella looked at Samuel and smiled. "Thank you," she whispered. "When I was sleeping, I saw a bright light. It told me a boy was calling me back. I followed your voice." Samuel's eyes widened. "You heard me?" She nodded slowly. "I did. It was warm and kind." Everyone stood in silence for a moment, hearts full and eyes wet. Then a sound of joy filled the air, songs, claps, and laughter. The rich and the poor, the old and the young, all danced together in the graveyard. And in the middle of it all stood Samuel, the boy who turned tears into smiles and sorrow into joy. By the next morning, the whole town was talking about Samuel. "Did you hear about the mango boy?" One man said. "He touched the casket, and the dead girl woke up." Another replied. The story spread like fire. Newspapers came. Cameras rolled. People crowded outside Samuel's tiny house, wanting to see the boy who spoke to heaven. Samuel's mother, weak and lying in bed, couldn't believe it. "Samuel," she said softly, "they say you brought a girl back to life. Is it true?" Samuel smiled shyly. "Mama, I just prayed. God did the rest." She smiled through tears. "My son, you are blessed." That same day, a shiny black car stopped in front of their small house. Out stepped Mr. Johnson and his wife, both smiling. Bella waved from the back seat, looking healthy and bright. Samuel ran out barefoot to meet them. "Sir, ma'am," he said with a little bow. Mr. Johnson laughed and hugged him. "No more bowing, Samuel. You are family now." He turned to Samuel's mother. "Madam," he said gently, "your son saved our only child. Now it's our turn to take care of you both." Samuel's mother tried to stand, but was too weak. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You are too kind," she whispered. Mrs. Johnson took her hand. "From today, you will have a doctor, good food, and no more worries. You deserve peace." Samuel's eyes shone. "Mama, did you hear that? We're going to be okay." Mr. Johnson smiled and said, "Not just okay, Samuel. I'm sending you to school, giving your family a new home, and anything you need to follow your dreams." Samuel couldn't speak. He just hugged Mr. Johnson tightly. Bella giggled. "And you have to come play with me every day? I don't have any friends who can make me laugh like you do." Samuel grinned. "Deal, but only if I get free mangoes for life." Everyone laughed so hard that even the driver wiped tears from his eyes. For the first time in a long time, Samuel's home was filled with laughter, music, and the smell of hope. And outside, the wind whispered softly again, as if heaven itself was smiling. A few days later, Samuel woke up to a sound he had never heard before: birds singing outside his brand new window. He sat up and rubbed his eyes. His bed was soft, the room smelled like flowers, and the walls were painted bright yellow. "Mama," he shouted, "look, we have a window and curtains." His mother laughed from her new bed. Her cheeks looked healthy again, her cough was gone, and she was dressed in a clean blue gown. "Yes, Samuel," she said softly, "we're not dreaming. This is our new home." Mr. Johnson had kept his word. He built them a small but beautiful house near the river, with a big mango tree right in front. Every day, people passed by just to see the boy who brought life back to the billionaire's daughter. That morning, a big car stopped outside their gate again. It was Mr. Johnson and Bella. "Samuel," Bella called, running toward him. "You promised to play with me today." Samuel grinned. And you promised not to cheat at hide and seek. She laughed and pulled him toward the car. Come on, Daddy wants to show you something. When they arrived at the Johnson mansion, Samuel couldn't believe his eyes. The gates were tall as mountains. The garden sparkled with fountains. And even the dogs looked like they wore perfume. Inside, Mr. Johnson greeted him with a proud smile. Samuel, my boy, he said, I want to tell you something important. Samuel stood straight, his hands behind his back. Yes, sir. I've spoken to the best school in the city. From next week, you'll start there. Everything is paid for. Books, uniform, even lunch. Samuel's jaw dropped. School? Me? Really? Mr. Johnson nodded. You have a bright mind, Samuel. It's time the world sees it. Bella clapped her hands. Yay, now you can learn science and build a robot mango seller. Samuel laughed so hard his stomach hurt. Maybe, but it has to sell only sweet ones. Everyone laughed. The air in the mansion was full of joy, love, and second chances. Samuel looked around and thought, maybe this is what miracles feel like, when life finally smiles back at you. The Johnson mansion was never quiet again after Samuel started visiting. Every morning, the maids, cooks, and guards waited to see what silly thing the boy would do next. One day, he came running into the kitchen with a mango balanced on his head. Behold, he shouted in a deep voice, the mighty Mango King is here to claim his breakfast. The cooks burst out laughing. One of them said, if the Mango King eats all the mangoes, what will we serve the guests? Samuel grinned. Serve them banana soup. Even the serious butler smiled that day. Bella loved having Samuel around. They played tag around the garden, built little boats to race in the fountain, and made funny faces at the security cameras. The guards tried to stay serious, but they laughed until their sides hurt. Mr. Johnson watched from his office window, smiling. For the first time since his daughter's sickness, the house was filled with laughter again. One afternoon, Mrs. Johnson called Samuel inside. Samuel, she said kindly, you've brought light into our home. Even the flowers seem brighter when you're here. Samuel blushed. I just like making people happy, ma'am. She nodded. And you do it so well. That evening, while everyone was having dinner, Samuel told one of his funny stories about how he once tried to chase a chicken but ended up chasing his own shadow. The whole table burst out laughing. Even the maid dropped a spoon from giggling too hard. Bella wiped tears from her eyes. Samuel, you're the funniest person I know. Mr. Johnson chuckled. Not just funny, he's brave, kind, and wise beyond his years. Samuel's cheeks turned red. I just try to be good, sir. My mama says a cheerful heart is like medicine. Mrs. Johnson smiled. Then our house must be the healthiest one in the world. The room filled with laughter once more. Outside, the night sky twinkled with stars. And for Samuel, the sound of happiness in the mansion was the sweetest music he had ever heard. He didn't know it yet, but this joy would soon be tested in ways he could never imagine. Weeks passed, and Samuel's life became like a dream. He went to school in a shiny new uniform, came home to a happy mother, and spent weekends laughing with Bella at the mansion. Everyone loved him, but not everyone was happy about his new life. In school, some of the rich kids whispered behind his back. He's just a poor boy, one said. He doesn't belong here. Another added, he probably made up that miracle story. Samuel heard them once, but he didn't reply. He remembered his mother's words. Don't fight back, son. Let your kindness speak louder. So he smiled and helped those same boys with their homework. Soon, even they began to laugh with him. But the real test came one afternoon when a man came to his new home, pretending to be a friend of Mr. Johnson. The man wore a fine suit and spoke gently. Samuel, he said, you have a gift. I can make you famous all over the world. Just come with me, and you'll be rich forever. Samuel blinked. But I already have all I need, he said. A home, school, my mama, and my friends. The man frowned. You're wasting your gift on these people. Think bigger, boy. Leave them, and I'll show you real power. Samuel shook his head. Sir, I don't want power. I only want to make people happy. At that moment, Mr. Johnson walked in. And that, he said firmly, is why he is special. The man turned pale. He mumbled an excuse and ran away. Mr. Johnson placed a hand on Samuel's shoulder. Son, people will always try to use you when they see light in you. But never forget who you are. Samuel nodded slowly. Yes, sir. I'll always remember. That night, as he looked at the stars, Samuel whispered, Thank you for helping me stay true. The wind blew softly through the trees, carrying a faint whisper. Keep your heart pure, Samuel. Your story is not done yet. He smiled. Deep inside, he knew something big was still waiting ahead. Years passed, and Samuel grew into a tall, kind young man. His story became known far and wide. People called him the boy who spoke to heaven. But Samuel never let it make him proud. He often said, I was just a poor boy who believed that love could do anything. Mr. Johnson's family treated Samuel like their own son. Bella became his best friend for life. Together, they helped people who were sick, hungry, or homeless. They built a small clinic in the village and called it Hope House. Every morning, children lined up to get free medicine and food. Samuel would walk among them, smiling and joking. Who wants mango juice? He would shout, and all the children's hands went up. His mother, now healthy and strong, helped in the kitchen. Samuel, she said one day, you've changed so many lives. Samuel smiled. No, Mama. God did. I just followed his voice. One afternoon, Mr. Johnson and Bella surprised him with something special. A big signboard outside the new school they built together. It said, Samuel's Academy, where believers become achievers. Samuel stood frozen, his eyes wet. You named it after me? He asked. Mr. Johnson nodded. You gave me my daughter back. This is the least I could do. Bella added with a giggle. And you promised to teach everyone your funny mango stories. Samuel laughed so hard his sides hurt. Deal, he said. That night, the whole village gathered for a celebration. There was music, dancing, and lots of food. Children sang songs about the boy who believed. When the stars filled the sky, Samuel stood on a small stage and said, Friends, remember this. No one is too poor, too small, or too young to make a difference. Believe, and miracles will follow. The crowd clapped and cheered. Even the wind seemed to join in, whistling softly through the trees. And as Samuel looked up at the stars, he whispered, Thank you for choosing me. The night was peaceful, bright, and full of laughter. The poor boy who once sold mangoes had become a light to the world because he dared to believe. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Bye.